Morning, everybody. We're just waiting for one more city councilor to start.
Call-in user 416931. We've unmuted you. Can you identify yourself?
Hi, Jennifer McKelvey.
Okay, thank you.
We're almost ready. Okay, good morning, everybody. I am going to call this meeting to order. My name is Councillor Paul Ainsley. I am the chair of Scarborough Community Council. We have quorum. To the members of the public, sorry, we had some technical issues this morning. I'm now calling meeting number 11 to order and would like to welcome everybody to the Scarborough Civic Center. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and in person at the Scarborough Civic Center in the council chamber. This meeting can also be seen live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. On behalf of my colleagues and staff, I would like to read the land acknowledgement, which states that although we will be meeting in different locations today, Scarborough Community Council would like to acknowledge that the land we're meeting on is the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We would also like to acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty Number 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. If you're registered to speak at today's meeting, can please listen to me to call your name. I will be called speakers in the order they appear on the list. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Scarborough Community Council page at toronto.ca/council and by clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. Members of the committee, the city clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council and on the clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff are available to members if you need help with your devices. I also want to remind you to please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are also available at scc@toronto.ca to help with motions. At this point, I'm going to ask if there's any declarations of interest under the Ontario Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Seeing none, can I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our last meeting on January 19th, 2024? Moved by Councillor Parneville. All in favor? That carries. I'm now going to go through the agenda. I'm going to switch pages. Thanks, Nancy. Our first item is SC 11.1, 2157 to 2183 Lawrence Avenue East. Zoning amendment application. This is a decision report for approval. We have 2 registered speakers, so I will hold that in my name. SC 11.2 is 3060 Eglinton Avenue East, a zoning amendment decision. This is for report approval. I have 1 deputant on that. I will hold that one in my name. SC 11.3, 4566 and 4568 Kingston Road zoning amendment application. Decision report approval. There are 2 speakers on this item, so I will hold that one. 11.4, 4151 to 4155 Sheppard Avenue East and 5 Lamont Avenue official planning and zoning bylaw amendment application. This is a decision report in Ward 22. And I have 2 registered speakers. I will hold that. And sorry. Number 6, SC 11.6, 28 Byng Avenue, application for a fence exemption in Ward 20. I don't believe I have any speakers. Councillor Cannaville, this is in your ward.
No need to hold it.
Okay, did you want to move the recommendations?
How does that work procedurally? Do it now?
Yep, yeah, if you want to do it now. All right, Councillor Cannaville is moving the recommendation for 11.6. All in favor? That carries. Approved. Sorry, did I miss an item? My apologies. Going back to SC 11.5, 10 Viewbank Road, application for a fence exemption. We have 2 speakers on this, so I will hold that in my name. Our next item, SC 11.7, 20 Farmington Crescent, application for a fence exemption in Ward 22. Okay, Councillor Mantis unfortunately couldn't be here this morning and I'm moving deferral of this item on his behalf to the April 4th, 2024 meeting of Scarborough Community Council. All in favor? That carries. SC 11.8, application for a fence exemption. We have a registered speaker on this item, so I will hold that in my name. SC 11.9, Toynbee Trail parking amendments in Ward 24. We have the recommendations before us as amended. Yes. Oh, is there a public speaker? Oh, my apologies. 1 registered speaker on number 9. SC 11.10, Metrolinx Scarborough subway extension, time extension of temporary sidewalk at closure on McCowan Road, Ward 23. Councillor Myers. I'd like to hold, please. Working on a quick amendment to staff. Okay. Councillor Myers is holding number 10. SC 11.11, Wishing Well Drive, traffic calming speed humps in Ward 22. Councillor Mantis, okay with the recommendations? Alex, Councillor Mantis is good? Yes. Yep, all right. So I will move the recommendations on behalf of Councillor Mantis. All in favor? That carries. 11.12, SC 11.12, Old Finch Avenue, heavy truck prohibitions, Ward 25. Councillor McKelvey?
I'd like to move staff. Thank you. I'd like to move staff recommendations.
Okay, Councillor McKelvey is moving staff recommendations in number 12. All in favor? That carries. SC 11.13, Old Finch Avenue and Sewells Road, heavy truck prohibitions, Ward 25. Councillor McKelvey,
I'd like to move staff recommendations.
all in favor of staff recommendations on number 13? That carries. SC 11.14, right turn prohibition at Military Trail and Ellesmere Road in Ward 24. There's a letter from me. I'll be moving the recommendations. All in favor? That carries. SC 11.15, assumption of services, registered plan 66M-2461, Portia Street, Subdivision, Scarborough, municipal address 90 Morningside Avenue in Ward 24. I'll be moving the recommendations. All in favor? That carries. SC 11.16, assumption of services, St. Magnus Subdivision, Chiavatti Developments Limited, Plan 66M-2482, Subdivision File Number 06198-723 ESC 44 SB in Ward 25. Councillor McKelvey,
I'll move staff recommendations.
Councillor McKelvey is moving staff recommendations. All in favor? That carries. And we have two new items of business. So we have two new items of business that Councillor Myers has in front of us. Councillor Myers, would you like to introduce the two items?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. So the first item I would like to introduce is a motion to begin studying improvements to the safety improvements to the cycling infrastructure at Brimley and McNicoll. Unfortunately, last week, a resident of mine was struck and killed while she was riding her bike. And that is right adjacent to the bike trails in the Finch hydro corridor. So I'd like staff to examine to how we can make that potentially safer. The second motion I'd like to introduce is reviewing the current usage of Scarborough Civic Center to see if we can perhaps enhance the usage and provide more opportunities for the community to be invited into the space. I think there's a lot of potential right here in Scarborough, and we have a lot of space in the Scarborough Civic Center that's currently being underutilized. And I think there's an opportunity here to provide space for entrepreneurs, for cultural groups, for not-for-profits, and to help generate some revenue to actually make some of the improvements we'd like to see in the Scarborough Civic Center. So yes, those are my two motions.
Okay, all right. We will vote to add them individually to the agenda, and then we'll have them displayed on the website so the public can have a look at them as well. So the first one, all in favor of safety improvements at the intersection of Brimley Road and McNicoll. All in favor? That carries. And the second one is entitled Scarborough Civic Center 2025 Strategic Plan. All in favor of adding this item to the agenda? And that carries.
Chair, if possible, I'd like to defer item 6, the 28 Byng Avenue.
Okay, so we need to reopen that.
I'd like to
So,
put a motion to reopen item 6.
okay, so all in favor of reopening SC 11.6, 28 Byng Avenue, application for offense exemption? All in favor? So that's been reopened, and then you'd like to defer it
Defer the motion, item 6,
to the April meeting? or-
April meeting, yeah.
Okay. So why don't we hold that down, just give staff a moment to, we're good? Okay. So Councillor Canavelle would like to defer SC 11.6, 28 Byng Avenue, application for offense exemption to the April 4th? To the April 2024 meeting of Scarborough Community Council. All in favor? And that carries. And then I need to reorder the agenda so that item 3, SC 11.3, 4566 and 4568 Kingston Road zoning amendment application. This is a decision report for approval. reordering the agenda so this item can be dealt with first. All in favor? That carries. All right. So our first item of business is SC 11.3, 4566, 4568 Kingston Road zoning amendment application. This is a decision report for approval in Ward 25. I have two registered speakers. The first speaker is Scott Harrison. And just so everybody knows that is speaking this morning, deputations. So you have 5 minutes to address community council. Each member of community council has up to 5 minutes to ask you questions on the item you're speaking about. Once deputations on that item are done, we do what we call bringing it into committee, where each councillor has up to 5 minutes to ask staff questions on the item. After that, we have 5 minutes to speak on the item, which includes moving motions, and then we will have a vote on the item. Morning, Mr. Harrison. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Good morning, councillors. My name is Scott Harrison. Some of you may know me from the past. Parthy, congratulations on becoming a city councillor now from the Toronto District School Board. I'd like to speak on the staff's decisions on this because again, I don't agree with a 12-story building on this property, and I'll explain why. 24 years ago, I was part of a working group put together by Councillor Soknacki and Mosier at the time. And at that time, I was also a trustee with the school board. This committee was incremental Kingston Road study working group. It was also part of the new City of Toronto official plan creation at the time of 2002. During this working group, we looked at how to help rebuild the growth along Kingston Road from east just before Highway 2 to Gilwood Parkway. And I recall during these meetings that Councillor Mosier didn't support anything larger than a 6-story building along Kingston Road, and I also believe Councillor Soknacki also supported this at the time. And there's been many reasons for this, from shadowing, parking, traffic, etc., affecting the neighborhood. And as a longtime owner resident, I can attest to issues like this for when they built the new condo at Kingston Road and Falaise on the corner. And in the summer, this affects the light into my backyard, shadowing, not to mention some of the other issues on garbage day. Again, this is only a 6-story building, but its setback affects my property. This building also does not have sufficient parking for the building, and I made that clear to Councillor Ainsley at the time. And we worked on getting parking amendments for the Falaise. And at that time, so we now have less parking issues, but during the day, it's extremely bad. And I see in this report that a 12-story building with 131 units and only 105 parking spaces, only 92 for the residents, and this is not enough for a city the size of Toronto. They should not have a one-size-fits-all approach bylaws for things like this. 131 units should have a minimum of 131 parking spaces. I see also that 116 bicycle parking spots are proposed for this site. So really, they have more bicycle parking than they do have for vehicles. Also, a 12-story building will impact the single-family dwellings just to the north with a shadow effect, as in the report. And transportation have determined that the proposed a minor shadow impact localized on the single property on Ames Road on the summer solstice. And I also believe that it would impact the street just to the east of that, Fairwood, with some of the units that are there. Staff considered that this shadow impact resulting from the proposed are acceptable. I don't know if I was the person that lived on Ames and it affected the shadowing effect in my backyard with a pool. Again, I think this is one of the reasons why Councillor Mosier at the time said 6-story buildings were acceptable along Kingston Road. And I know that school boards in this application, Councillor Parneville could attest to this. West Hill Public School is closed for optional attendance. It is already over capacity in the area, and adding these units, this many units, will impact the schools greatly. And the unfortunate reality with that is that people don't realize that until after they buy the units, and then they try and enroll their kids in the school and find out they can't go there. They have to be bused somewhere else. I think those are part of the problems, but I also wanted to indicate part of your bylaw, 569-2013, and I have, this is a map here, I don't know if you can see it from your bylaw, but it's colored in gray, and it says properties shown in gray are subject to former municipal zoning bylaws. So I'm not sure as to why it's going to be a 12-story building when the previous bylaws were a 6-story building with possible up to 8 because of structural mechanical rooms and things like that. So again, I oppose a 12-story building. I think 6 is what was we created in a working group and was supported by, at the time, both Councillor Mosier and Socknaki along Kingston Road. As I said, the building at Falaise, it's a 6-story building and it fits the neighborhood. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harrison. Questions of the deputant? Seeing none. So, sorry, Mr. Harrison, it was the Kingston Road Incremental Growth Study, I believe?
Yes, this is, whoop. I'm not sure if you were part of that then, Paul, but that's the one.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was 6 stories along the Kingston Road structure all the way up to the old Bob Johnson's, where actually that was a bigger development, but it's still vacant to this day.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
And our next deputant, sorry. Our next deputant is Simran Badi from Bowesfield Incorporated. They're online. Good morning, Mr. Badi. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of Community Council. My name is Simran. I'm an urban planner with Bowesfields, Inc. We act on behalf of Old Orchard Developments, the owner of this site. I'll give a short deputation and then maybe I can try to address some of Mr. Harrison's questions, or we can leave that to staff or members to do. But I'd just like to begin by thanking staff for their efforts and collaboration throughout the process, particularly our community planner, Samuel Barron, who's been fantastic to work with. Staff's feedback has significantly informed the proposed 12-story mixed-use building that is before you today. As members likely know, this property is located on the west side of Kingston Road, just north of Morningside. It's kind of this stretch of Kingston Road that runs north-south, which is a little irregular. This is an area where growth and development is directed and has been directed for some time. As Mr. Harrison mentioned, he was part of that study quite some time ago. Without boring you too much, I'll just provide a brief overview of kind of the policy and contextual considerations we considered when coming up with this 12-story building. From a policy perspective, the site's located on a segment of Kingston Road, identified as an avenue where the official plan does direct growth, often in a mid-rise form. The official plan also designates the site as mixed-use areas, which is one of 4 land use designations anticipated to accommodate the majority of the official plan's growth. Most importantly, I think, and Mr. Harrison touched on it, City Council did adopt an avenue study for this segment of Kingston Road, which extends all the way from the Guildwood GO station in the west to the Highland Creek Bridge in the east. And its implementing zoning bylaw, which was approved all the way back in 2003, already establishes permissions for mid-rise mixed-use development on this segment of Kingston Road and allows for 8 stories as of right. And then from a contextual perspective, and this is largely a product of the policy framework I just described to you, this segment of Kingston Road has seen a range of recent mid-rise and tall buildings, which range in height up to 38 stories. Among these is an 11-story building, which is located right across the street from this site. And so to touch on the application before you today, we're proposing to demolish the rather derelict, vacant non-residential buildings currently on this site and redevelop them with a high-quality, urban-form 12-story mixed-use development containing 187 square meters of at-grade retail and 131 residential apartment units. And from a land use perspective, it's our view that the at-grade retail, along with landscaping and streetscaping improvements, will improve the public realm along Kingston Road, and that the proposed apartment units will add much-needed housing supply to an area where growth and development are and have been encouraged for some time. And then from an urban design perspective, and I can touch on Mr. Harrison's points here, we feel as though the massing really frames Kingston Road at a good proportion in a comfortable pedestrian scale. The 2003 study predates kind of the growth plan in 2006 and more recent iterations of that document, and also predates the city's mid-rise design guidelines and recent official plan amendment, which deals with mid-rise buildings, OPA 420. And both of those documents kind of, they seek to relate the height of mid-rise buildings to the right-of-way width of the road they front on. And in this case, the right-of-way width of Kingston Road is closer to 36 meters, which kind of makes a 12-story building an appropriate proportional response. The building also transitions down in height to the neighborhood's designated lands to the west by incorporating various step-backs and terraces. And so while this is a 12-story building, the portion of the building that will actually interface with the neighborhoods is only 2 stories. Then it'll step up, and then it'll step up, and then it'll step up as the distance increases from those neighborhoods. And so through discussions with staff, the height of the building has been reduced from 13 to 12 stories. The transition strategy has been revised to respect generally a 45-degree angular plane, and retail has been included in the development program. Staff have reviewed the shadow impacts, wind impacts, transportation impacts, servicing impacts, and deemed them to be acceptable and have accepted the height and massing of the building. I've reviewed staff's report and support their recommendations. I would be happy to answer any of your questions, and I'm sure Samuel or Christian could answer any that I can't. So thank you for your consideration today.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions of the deputant? Councillor Candeval?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. You referenced the shadowing study. Is it in the application or in the file that's before us?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the shadow study was submitted as part of the application materials. It is included in the architectural drawings. If it's helpful, I'm happy to walk members through it.
Yeah, if it, I'm not sure procedurally, Chair, at this point, do staff speak to it now or later? Because I can't find it in the report. Yeah, I'm asking where that file is, or do we wait for staff to speak to it? Yeah. Where is the shadowing report?
Sorry, Mr. Batty, can you hear Councillor Candeval? He's asking about the shadowing report and where he can't find it and he would like to read it.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I wasn't sure if that was addressed to me, Councillor. The shadowing study is available on the city's application information center under 4566 to 4568 Kingston Road. And it's on pages 25 and 26 of the architectural drawings file, which is uploaded on the city's website. If it's easier to look for it in the staff report, Mr. Barron's staff report does speak to shadows on page, I can pull it up for you.
So just to clarify, you submitted it to staff, but it's not in the staff report?
Yes, that's correct. We submitted the shadow study to staff and to the public. It's available online. And the shadows are spoken to on page 10. So staff looked at our shadow study. They reviewed what that shadow study illustrated in terms of what was generated by the proposal against the official plan's policies that deal with shadows. And then they provided their analysis on that shadow study on page 10. I'm happy to provide my own analysis if it's helpful. I'm in your hands, Councillor.
No, I think having the visual is important. So maybe by the time when we get to staff, if staff can send it, forward it, email it, then that would help the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cannavale. Other questions of the deputant? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr.
I just
Batty.
had a quick question, Mr. Chair.
Sorry?
Just a quick question.
Councillor Myers, questions of the deputant?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just a question as to what are your thoughts or plans in terms of the retail space that you'll be providing? Will any of it be low cost or space that's available to the community?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, to answer the councillor's question, we can certainly look at that. Again, I'm just the developer's planning consultant. The developer isn't here today, but I can pass that along, and that can certainly be looked at. The commercial residential zone category that we are seeking to apply here does permit a wide range of non-residential uses, and low-cost uses would certainly be permitted as of right under that zoning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions of the deputant on this item? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Batty. Questions of staff on this item? Councillor Cannavale, questions of staff?
I'm not sure who in staff would be speaking to this, but about the shadow study. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Did you forward or send the shadow study?
Through the chair. So the shadow study is submitted as part of the application package, so it's in the architectural drawing set. I have logged into WebEx as a panelist, so I would be happy to share my screen. If technical support could promote me to a panelist, then I could share my screen.
It would be easier for me to study it if it's in front of me. I'm not sure if I have a best angle. If you share the screen, can you share that file? Typically, I know in other applications, they're included as part of the staff report. I'm not sure why this was not included.
Through the chair, I'd be happy to share it with you. I'll just be a moment.
Okay.
Through the chair, we're just trying to email it now, but it's such a large file, it's crashing our Outlook. So just bear with us. We're just sending it to your email address.
If it's a few pages, you can do a print screen and save it as a JPEG and email it.
Yeah, we can do that as well, because it's part of a 27-page package. So
Can you put it on the screen for the rest of us?
if we can get Sam promoted to a panelist, we'll be able to do that.
Councillor, did you want to ask questions on it?
Can't get a good read on it. I'm waiting for it to come in my inbox.
Through the chair, the dark grey is the as of right 8 stories, and the purple is the additional 4 stories to make the 12-story total proposal.
Sorry about that. In the graphics that are shown, is this, to the right of the building, is that the side street, the residential road?
Through the chair, so to the right of the building would be Kingston Road.
Is Kingston, sorry?
To the immediate right of the building
Is-
is Kingston Road. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So where does it, I think the term was marginal impact. So in which box does it impact the neighborhood?
I believe I have to scroll up through the chair.
Okay. Has it been emailed or forwarded?
Through the chair, I did just send it to yourself.
Okay, other councillors may want to see it as well. Well, I need to see the graphic to fully understand. So while we wait, I think you're planning to walk us through which one, where does it impact the neighborhood, if at all?
Through the chair, it would be this second square here on the bottom left hand of the screen where my cursor is.
Yeah, yeah,
Through the chair, it would be the second square,
right.
bottom left hand of the screen. As indicated by my colleague, the gray area would be the as of right 8-story shadowing. And the, I guess, pink is demonstrating what the incremental impacts would be for a 12-story building, so beyond the 8 stories. So that additional pink.
Uh-huh.
And as you can see, it would be on neighborhood designated lands in someone's backyard, and this would be at the March 21st solstice.
And that's the backyard, it's not on the house?
Through the chair, that's correct. The little boxes are meant to illustrate structures.
And in box 3, is that purple square falling on a home?
Through the chair, that is Kingston Road.
That is, oh, Kingston Road's east of the building, or sorry, east to the right or north in this case, right?
Through the chair, that's correct. This portion of Kingston Road has an unorthodox alignment, so the shadowing tends to fall sort of in a different orientation than what we're accustomed to.
Okay, so to confirm, the most impact that we're seeing is the second box from the right, sorry, from the left. Is
Through
that
the chair, that is correct.
of all the boxes that display shadow impact, that's the most significant, and it's only falling on the backyard. Is that correct?
Through the chair, my understanding of the shadow study is that would be the most impactful, that second box from the bottom left-hand screen. And staff have found that that is acceptable.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that's from staff analysis of the submitted report, that is the area of greatest impact?
Through the chair, that
shadow
is
impact.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. That was,
Did we start the time?
I'm done.
Okay, all right, thank you. Other questions on this item from councilors? Councilor McKelvey, sorry, Deputy Mayor McKelvey.
Thank you. This property right now, is it a derelict, boarded up, old building that's not doing anything right now?
Through the chair, that is correct. There are 2 structures currently on site, and as far as I'm aware, they are not leased out and they are vacant.
Across the street, is there an 11-story building? Is there an 11-story the building that's going up?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Were all residents notified of this project, and did you have a community consultation?
Through the chair, as part of the public meeting notice, through clerks, 120 meters would have been a standard notification area for the purposes of this council meeting. And for the purposes of the community consultation meeting that took place, it was in 2022. We did use an expanded notification area. I have it in my staff report that went beyond the 120 meters.
Yeah, considerably, as I usually do. Great. Is this area a 5-minute walk to the new Kingston, well, not that new, but to the red bus lanes?
Through the chair, I believe so.
Okay. And is this building close to the University of Toronto Scarborough, who has considerable pressures with housing?
Through the chair, to the north is the University of Scarborough, University of Toronto Scarborough campus. That's correct.
Okay. So did you do an intensive review of this process, follow all the rules, have all the community meetings that are needed, and is your recommendation in front of us today to proceed with this application?
Through the chair, staff have found that this is a mixed-use area, the site itself, on an avenue, which is where the majority of mixed-use growth is anticipated to take place in the city of Toronto. We've had 3 submissions on this application. Staff worked with the applicant to reduce the height of the building from 13 to 12 stories. In line with the Kingston Road Avenue study, we also worked with the applicant to ensure that there was a provision of 188 square meters of retail on site. Initially, outdoor amenity was proposed. And as it is an avenue, we wanted to ensure that there was a provision of retail space at grade. It checks a lot of the boxes with respect to what represents appropriate development for a mixed-use area on an avenue. And as you had asked, we did hold a consultation meeting April 21st, 2022, with an expanded notification area. So the process has been typical, and we've followed all of the typical planning processes for this application.
So I see a usual trend where things are refused. They just keep coming back bigger as the pressure on the city continues. We have a target of 285,000 new homes in the city of Toronto. So if we don't proceed this day, is there a risk it just comes back again at another height, or goes to OLT and asks for more?
Through the chair, it certainly is a risk if no decision were to be made today, or if the application were to be denied. And we've been working closely, as Mr. Barron indicated, with the applicant to reduce and manage the scale of the proposal to be contextually appropriate, and thus the recommendations before Community Council today to approve the proposal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor McKelvey, other questions for staff on this item? Seeing none, I had a couple. So I want to ask about, what I call it, the Kingston Road Incremental Growth Study that was passed in 2003, which encompasses Kingston Road from the Gilwood GO train station to Beach Grove and Kingston Road. And my understanding was building heights were set at a maximum of 8 stories. So how does the community get compensated for, so the buildings are supposed to be at a maximum of 12. This one's coming in at, 8. This one's coming in at 12. So is the Kingston Road Incremental Growth Study, are those guidelines still in place? I see it was referenced by its official designation in the report, but how does something like that get dealt with? Because we also don't have Section 37 anymore.
Through the chair, so the in-force zoning remains, as you indicated, with predominantly an 8-story permission across the corridor as of right. There are ways applicants can, as you've seen, seek relief to increase the height and or density. Some applicants have chosen to attempt to secure that relief through the Committee of Adjustment, and have been unsuccessful in some cases. Others have chosen to rezone the property to come to Community Council for a thorough review and vetting of the issues by this body, such as the case here. In the previous approvals, we have secured Section 37 agreements for the increased height and density. Currently under the CBC regime, as we know, there's a charge at the building permit stage unless in-kind contributions are offered. That is not the case here. What we are seeing, though, are improvements to the corridor in line with the incremental growth study or the avenue study, depending on your preferred title, to intensify the area, replace non-residential uses in the base of buildings, but also improve the streetscape and pedestrian amenity along the stretch to make it a more walkable and inclusive community as opposed to a auto thoroughfare.
So I guess, so like 20 years later, should we be looking at reviewing the avenue study to see if the conditions in it are still appropriate for the community? Like the first deputy mentioned, there's a 6-story building at Falaise and Kingston Road, but within that area of the study, like developers are repeatedly coming in for higher height buildings.
So it might be appropriate to be reviewing the framework as believe in through Councillor Deputy Mayor McKelvey's line of questioning. She did speak about the pressures, the development pressures that could emerge. We are with recent development applications around the Guildwood GO station, looking at that context, but we've kind of confined it to informally the area near the GO station. With the implementation of the bus-only lanes, the future hopeful implementation of light rail transit, that will put upward pressures on development permissions, provincially mandated pressures, I would add, as their major transit station areas, and that might be a more appropriate time with the transit certainty to look at increasing development permissions along this stretch and making sure that both hard and soft infrastructure are aligned with those increasing development opportunities.
Okay, and then on page 7, development and mixed-use areas says, furthermore, the proposal implements the overall intent of the Kingston Road Avenue study and implementing bylaw 542, 2003. So the other question I had around that was, when that study was done, there was a lot of concern from residents about the type of businesses that were on Kingston Road, and if memory serves me, that had to do with strip motels and car lots. And so in the lobby of this building, there was a business center, and now it's going to be commercial retail space. Do we have, under that avenue bylaw, do we have any ability to restrict the type of commercial space going into that area? If I don't get like check cashing or spas, which everybody seems to like to get their nails done, and there's a lot of them.
Through the chair, so the original avenue study restricted auto-based uses, so that would be prohibited, although the space wouldn't be conducive to a auto body shop or a mechanic. There is a opportunity to permit certain types of uses through the zoning bylaw amendment, but those check cashing uses, I believe, are retail, technically classified as retail uses. So if we permit a retail use, it would be difficult to restrict the type of retail use within it. I think it's a positive, though, that there are non-residential uses being proposed and being required as a minimum through the zoning bylaw, and we've actually been seeing an increase in the amount of non-residential uses provided at grade from previous proposals along this stretch, which were purely residential.
Okay, all right, thank you. Seeing no further question or speakers. Sorry, Councillor Myers.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I'm just looking at the building, and it does look quite old and derelict, but I guess to quote Jane Jacobs, new ideas need old buildings. So is there, and we keep seeing this sort of trend of just demolishing these old buildings in Scarborough and replacing them with retail for condos, and only certain stores can afford to be in those, banks, chains, and we lose a lot of our unique identity as a community. So is there any sort of thought being given into when when we're in it, when we're doing these applications on like an individual basis, there doesn't seem to be any consideration as to, are we preserving our local heritage? Yes, they're derelict buildings, but I've seen lots of examples of derelict buildings being repurposed or even included in some of these developments. And they actually look really interesting and they make the community unique. They allow us to grow while still preserving some of what makes Scarborough Scarborough. So is there any thoughts given to those kinds of considerations other than it's an old building, we need to tear it down to build housing, which we do, but we can also include these buildings in these eventual structures going up?
Through the chair, I think that there are certainly thoughts, and it's about the kind of retention, if you will, of buildings from both a opportunity for rents, but also from a climate perspective, right? That's a lot of embodied carbon that could be taken down. And on larger buildings with larger sites, we do try to incorporate existing buildings where we can. I believe in this case, the balance does have to skew to housing because that is the intention of the zoning. There is actually a minimum build requirement for the site within the bylaw, a minimum of 2 stories and a minimum density, which the existing buildings may not even hit. In this case, the previous uses, as far as we can tell, was a thrift shop and a place of worship. The place of worship, the use is not being carried forward with the new proposal, but the idea of a thrift shop or a small community serving retail could be accommodated within the space. And again, it's a first step. The first step is to set the table by incorporating the space into the building and requiring it for the zoning. When the application was originally submitted, it was a taller, denser building with no non-residential space. Through the process, we've secured the non-residential space, and that's the step towards putting the use into the building.
So do we, you raised a bunch of great points, reducing our carbon output. Do we ever give that kind of consideration? I've never seen that thought, that type of thinking when we come at Scarborough Community Council. I always see it downtown where they try to incorporate what's there into what's going up. We don't really do that. We just sort of like tear it down, build new.
Through the chair, it does depend on the site. I was actually reviewing a site plan, just taking a look at the drawings the other day along Eglinton and the Golden Mile area, where a rather significant office building is being largely retained through redevelopment, and the master plan is being kind of worked around it. In other cases, we do have proposals where there actually is a designation from a heritage perspective to retain the building. It really does depend on the site. And it usually happens well before it's ready to come to the Scarborough Community Council because it's in a pre-application or an initial stage of the application that staff are working on and looking for. But we're trying to work with stakeholders and the community to make sure that it's the right outcome for the site once it gets here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Speakers on this item. I think I saw the Deputy Mayor's hand. Deputy Mayor McKelvey.
Thank you. I'd like to move staff recommendations and thank staff for the work on this, and especially securing the retail on the first floor. Many of our projects in the ward are going straight to OLT, and we're losing that ability to have that important discussion with the developer. So I thank them for sitting down with city staff, going through the city process, having the community hearings. Again, we did expand the notice area. On that, residents were notified again about today. Nobody likes to have building next door, but I think people appreciate that this is a derelict site. This is not, existing businesses that we're forcing out. This is exactly the type of place where we do want to be building housing, much needed, with a goal of 285,000 new homes within the 10 years of that target being set. Much needed housing, giving the pressures of the university on the local community. I know people, we have legalized multi-tenant homes, but people don't want to see every home in the community being turned into that. That's why it's important that we do build housing like this. Across the street, there is an 11-story building that is going up, so there is precedent in the immediate neighborhood for this. And importantly, this building is 5-minute walk to the rapid TO lanes. So this is exactly where we need to be building destiny in my community of Scarborough Rouge Park. And I also welcome any councillors for any development that I have. If you ever want to go for a walkabout before community council, have a look at that, check out the site, see it for yourself. I'm welcome to take you on that tour as well. So thank you to everybody involved in this, and looking forward to welcoming new neighbors and having them call Scarborough Rouge Park.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor McKelvey. Other speakers on this item? Councillor Cannaval?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I thank the deputy. It's an important part of our process to hear all voices. You know, as reviewing the report, it's clear that the impact is minimal on the accompanying neighborhood. Seeing other applications, the ratio of parking spots to units is actually a good ratio in comparison to other applications I've, in my short time, seen. The area is unused. It is a derelict building. So to Deputy Mayor McKelvey's point, there aren't any existing businesses that are being kicked out and thereby not being able to perhaps afford the retail space or the non-res space. And it'll help the pedestrian aesthetic. And also importantly, I think there's existing commercial retail in the area, so it's still maintaining and ensuring a walkable community. So for those reasons, I think this is a good development amongst the other ones already mentioned.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cannaval. Other speakers on this item? Councillor Myers?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'd like to add my voice. I think this is an overall good development, and I thank the Deputy Mayor and the staff for all their hard work on this. Understanding that we do need to build more housing, but I also think that we also need to be conscious of what we're losing in the process and do everything that we can to preserve our local history and what makes our community unique. It isn't new buildings, it's the buildings that we currently have, and repurposing them sometimes is the best option, or even including them in these newer developments. You know, I was very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to live in New York City for 7.5 years, Brooklyn for 3 years, and I saw this type of, incorporation of these buildings all the time. And Brooklyn wouldn't be Brooklyn if it just decided to destroy all the buildings that made it so special and so unique and build these new buildings. What makes Brooklyn interesting is that a lot of these exact types of buildings are repurposed into lofts, into different types of usage, into artist space, and it keeps the community thriving. And they've been able to accommodate far more growth than we're dealing with, and they've done it quite successfully. And I've seen this type of work done in London, Montreal, and other cities. And I really think that while we're trying to build this target that's important to build housing, we really need to be conscious that we should do everything we can to also preserve our local history in the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Myers. Other speakers on this item? Seeing none, so we have the recommendations before us, put forward by Deputy Mayor McKelvey.
Recorded vote, please.
And we'll have a recorded vote. Sure.
All those in favor of adopting the recommendations in the staff report, please raise your hand. Councillor Myers, Councillor Candaval, Councillor Ainsley, Councillor Thompson, Councillor McKelvey. That item carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much, Nancy. Our next item is SC 11.1, 2157 to 2183 Lawrence Avenue East, a zoning amendment application decision report for final approval in Ward 21. We have two registered speakers. The first speaker is Malale Gulabidin. Are they here or online? Don't see them online? No. Malale Gulabidin. Sorry, my apologies. Malale Gulabudin? No? Okay. Next, I have Peter Smith from Bowesfield Incorporated. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready, sir.
Good morning. My name's Peter Smith. I'm a land use planner and a partner with Bowesfields. I'm here for Shelburne Capital, who is the owner and the applicant. And so, first of all, I want to thank staff for all of their assistance throughout the pre-application process and the application process, and as well for the positive staff recommendations in the staff report that's in front of you. However, we did have a concern with the staff recommendation to amend the application to eliminate the second tower that was proposed, to effectively reduce that from a 21-story tower to an 11-story mid-rise building. And unfortunately, due to the Bill 109 timeframes, we only became aware of the staff recommendation when the report was posted online. And in saying that, I'm not being critical at all of staff. The Bill 109 timelines we're all finding are virtually impossible to work with. But when we became aware of the staff recommendation, we reached out to staff. We've had a number of discussions with them over the past couple of weeks, which I think have been positive. And as a result, we are now prepared to reduce the height of the easterly building from 21 stories to 11 stories, which will help to mitigate any shadow impacts on the north side of Lawrence. However, what we would ask of Community Council is to amend the staff recommendation to increase the permitted height of the westerly building, the one at the corner, from 28 stories to 34 stories. And the effect of that would be to essentially leave our client in the same position as with the original application. We've studied the shadow impacts associated with that increase to 34 stories, and we've shared those studies with staff, and they show that there is no unacceptable impact. While the shadows will be longer, they will not reach the low-rise neighborhood to the northeast or touch the low-rise neighborhoods to the south and southeast of the site. And therefore, it's our opinion that the revised proposal at 34 stories and 11 stories addresses all of the concerns and appropriately balances all of the considerations that were in front of staff and that are in front of you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the deputant? Councillor Thompson, this is your ward. Did you have questions for the deputant?
I know, Mr. Chair, the deputant has been very clear and has actually responded to some of the questions that I had for him. I'm very clear on this particular matter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions of the deputant? Councillor Myers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Is there any affordable housing units in this application?
To you, through the chair, not currently. The application is not within an inclusionary zoning area, and under the current mechanisms, the only way to achieve affordable housing if you're not in an inclusionary zoning area is through an in-kind contribution under Section 37. And so those are the community benefit charges. And so we've not yet had those discussions, and we can have those discussions going forward, but as yet we have not.
Thank you. So as part of your request to increase the height, will you be working with staff to see how that could be included as part of as affordable housing?
Again, Councillor, the challenge under the community benefit charge regime is that all that we're able to offer and all that the city is able to demand through the legislation is a 4% community benefit charge. How that community benefit charge gets applied, regardless of the height, regardless of the density, is ultimately up to discussions between the applicant and the city.
Thank you. Just one final question. Is there anything in the Act preventing you from taking the initiative of just building affordable housing in this development, regardless of the community benefit charge?
No, there's nothing in the Act that would preclude
So
that.
if you wanted to, you could build affordable housing in addition to providing the city with the community benefit charge?
Yes, there would be a question about how that gets secured,
Okay.
but that would be a possibility.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions of the deputant? Seeing none, speakers on this item? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the questions to Mr. Smith. We actually have a brand new building that was just built at 1236 Birchmount Road, which is actually a complete building of affordable. It's affordable units in there. It is actually wonderful. I'd like to invite members of council who have an interest in my area to come and visit the work that's actually being done there. So across the street, we have a complete building. Mr. Smith has spoke. Oh, Mr. Chair, I have motions actually. There are one there. Maybe just ask the staff to put it forward. As Mr. Smith has pointed out, there has been some challenges with the initial staff recommendations. The staff, myself, and the applicant have actually worked through this. Legal has actually drafted this motion that is actually in front of members of council, community council. The intention of this particular motion is really to change the decision that was made by staff as it related to the initial 28 plus 11 stories. That changed from what was the initial request by the applicant of 28 plus 21 stories. All of these matters have now been addressed. There had been essentially up to the minute finalization of this amendment that you're actually seeing in front of us. There has been community meeting on this particular application. And in fact, shadow studies aspects and concerns have been addressed. As it relates to the CBC, there isn't a significant sum of monies to be derived from the CBC. The community and myself are actually working with those funds to look at public art investment in the community. And we have reviewed the area in which this proposed site will be located. It will be transformative to the intersection of Birchmount and Lawrence. And so what we're asking today is to ensure that council recognize the changes that have taken place with respect to the original request of the applicant, to that which now staff and the applicant in my office are in full agreement with respect to the proposal to transform 2157, 2183 Lawrence Avenue. I might also add, Mr. Chair, that on the south west corner, there is a building that's Aldebrain. It's been there for almost 30 years. This is a building, again, that's has a significant number of affordable housing units. In fact, it also serves as a building that helps people who are recovering from brain injury or those who may not recover but are in need of full care. So this is an area that is being transformed. On the northeast side, there is a development that's coming as well. And we're looking at all of the different components to ensure complete community in this particular area. As the matter related to the former one that we discussed on Kingston Road, we have gone through a transformation process with respect to avenue study in which we are able to determine the necessary heights that's appropriate for this particular area. That is even being reviewed now based on the need that exists in the city with respect to more housing. So I can support what's actually in front of us and the amendment, and I ask members of council to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. Sorry, just stepping back. Sorry. Councillor Cannavale said he had questions of staff. Councillor?
Yes. I think we skipped. Did we skip that?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, great.
I skipped it.
Okay,
Go ahead.
No problem. No problem. Just wanted to confirm the motion from Councillor Thompson is to edit staff recommendation, or I'm a little unclear.
So through the chair, if you allow me just a little longer of an answer, the recommended bylaw attached to the report was an amended form of the application, which we have worked with the applicant and Councillor Thompson to further implement a refinement that all parties are happy with. The applicant was not supportive of our amended form of the application, which we did to meet Bill 109 timelines. The attachment to Councillor Thompson's motion was provided to him by staff after reviewing the proposal and its associated.
What's the substantial change? What is it?
The 28-story tower recommended by staff in the attachment 5 of the staff report has been increased to 34 stories. And it retains the 11-story portion on the east.
So the new proposal vis-a-vis this amendment is instead of 28 and 11, it's 34 and 11?
34 and 11,
Okay.
and refinements to setbacks, which are all to the positive.
Okay. The current site, it's commercial retail?
Through the chair, that's correct, yes.
And what is the floor space of that current?
The existing floor space, as indicated in the application data sheet attached to the report, is 1,275 square meters. Proposed within the development and in the amendment attached to Councillor Thompson's motion, as negotiated by staff with the applicant, is 781 square meters.
1,200 coming down to
781, so about a 60% retention.
Okay. You know, my comments on this, you know, is part of a bigger conversation of how.
Sorry, Councillor, you have to ask questions. You can
This is
speak.
questions to staff, right? Yeah.
You can speak after.
Yeah, and I'm getting to the question. Sorry, I understand. What are the provisions being provided to retain affordability of the commercial retail space?
Through the chair, there's no specific opportunities available as a policy tool or as a zoning tool before planning. I know that there are programs through economic development which do attempt to provide assistance to certain uses and spaces that are secured, but unless the city secures spaces as community agency space or benefits, there's limited opportunity for the city to hold rents or retain rents as affordable.
Good to know that context. And the traffic study that was provided by the applicant, is this part of the report or only staff commentary?
Through the chair, there was a traffic study provided by the applicant, which was reviewed. The amended form of the application was found to be acceptable, and there weren't any major impacts. This is on one of these Rapatio routes. The Lawrence Avenue East is on the Rapatio use, and any technical requirements coming out of the traffic study to implement this form can be done through site plan control or prior to the lifting of the H on the site.
Sorry, so the report prepared by Nextrans, is that part of the report, or does that need to be provided independently?
Because through the chair, because the proposal as amended is either the same sort of density and unit count or slightly less, those assumptions I would imagine can continue to be applied because it was a built form change, not a unit count change. The parking provided is not.
Sorry, just watching time. I think what I'm asking is if that report can be provided by Nextrans. I know staff commentary here saying it's the impact is negligible or whatnot, but that's the staff response to that report. So on this item, but going forward, can those reports, like specifically the traffic impact study, be provided with the staff report?
So the submitted traffic study is online at the Application Information Center. If the question is about whether an update to the traffic study is required with the amended built form, it is just a redeployment of the original built form. So the assumptions about trip generation, unit count, et cetera, would remain.
No, I get that. I guess it's a procedural thing in terms of access to information. Thank you.
Okay, and I guess, sorry, Councillor, just as a point of order, a few years ago with the amount of paper around development applications and that, we created a portal where a lot of the information can be seen through the link in the report. Sorry, Councillor Myers, you have questions of staff?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. Just sort of to pick up on my line of
Or,
questioning.
Mr. Chair, just a point of order, please.
Sorry, Councillor Thompson, point of order?
To the staff there, I was just having some sort of hearing the questions, so I don't know if there's something happening on their end. I just wonder if they can just look into that for me, because I just want to make sure I can hear the questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Councilor Myers. I can hear you now. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I was just curious, have you seen examples of applicants who have built affordable housing beyond simply providing the CBC charge, or in the previous iteration of this Section 37, when they've sort of come to Community Council asking for, increased density? Is this unprecedented in the city, or are these types of examples out there?
Through the chair, it is it's a question, I guess, most affordable housing proposals or developments like the one that Councillor Thompson spoke of in his comments across the street from this site do usually rely on a level of city support through Open Door or other programs or CMHC support and I'm a little off my station in terms of land economics, but to close the delta between construction costs, land values, and affordable rents. So when proposals come forward with increased height and density, we attempt to secure through community benefit charge or Section 37 under the old regime. When pure affordable projects come forward to Community Council for increased height and density, it's usually through the support of Open Door or a similar program.
So public money has to be spent in order to secure the affordable housing because the CBC charges too little.
Generally, through the chair, I would say yes. However, there are some housing developers and housing providers that are non-for-profit and affordable development. In Deputy Mayor McKelvey's ward, for example, the groundbreaking for that Ridgeford Trust proposal on Sewells and Brennan Way near Nielsen Road, they are a affordable housing developer. They have a mandate to be one, but they even relied on Open Door to make that project a reality.
So now that we're in, I guess, a post-Section 37 world, and we don't have these tools, would it be advisable that maybe we start a precedent where if you do want this additional density, that the developer takes the initiative and creates the affordable housing as part of the development, in addition to providing their CBC charge, which together will probably still collectively be less than what they would be paying under Section 37. And it gives them ultimately more control over what they do rather than it being done through the city.
And through the chair, I believe that is generally what inclusionary zoning intends to do. And I don't.
And we don't have inclusionary zoning at this moment, correct?
We are through the chair. We're on the way to it.
How long have you been
on
waiting
the journey
for,
there?
How long have you been waiting for inclusionary zoning?
I believe we're measuring in years now through the chair, but I'm not sure if I could answer that exactly for you. I'm sorry.
In the interim, while we're still waiting for inclusionary zoning, do you not think that it might be advisable to start finding creative solutions to get affordable housing built beyond simply relying on the CBC charge and public money, as there isn't a lot of either?
Sorry, Councillor, you're straying away from asking questions on this specific application.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So through the chair, we're always interested in creative solutions. It's a council priority. It's an official plan priority. Through the upper level documents, it's seen as a provincial priority. We have certain tools in our toolkit that we will continue to use, and we will try to be as creative as possible in the future to continue that until we get the inclusionary zoning and other process mechanisms.
Thank you. Final question, is there a creative solution for this application in that if the additional density were to go through, would it be possible to secure affordable housing?
Through the chair, our legislative toolkit is limited, but we can make the request, and if successful, we would be bringing a report back about securing housing in kind under the CBC. But it
Talking
is
about beyond the CBCs.
beyond the CBC. It is
Creative,
a conversation,
legislative.
and I'm not sure how creative we can be given the legislative constraints placed upon us.
That's creativity. It's going beyond the legislation, yeah. But I get it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
Sorry, Councillor Thompson, you have a point of order?
I wonder if I can, no, actually, I wonder if I can ask staff some questions.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a procedure change. Just through you, Mr. Chair, to staff, can you comment on the density? Is there an increase in density on the site?
Through the chair, there is an increase in density above what was put in place through the as of right zoning avenue study.
Right, but what is that increase that I'm looking at getting at?
Through the chair, we'll get a quick number for you. I'm just my computer's.
Sure, that's fine. So can you help me to understand a little? So we've lost section 37 and we are now in a CBC regime. The quantum and the difference with respect to section 37 and CBC. CBC, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 4% of the value of the development? Is that what that is?
Through the chair, the CBC is calculated at 4% of the land value at the building permit stage. So when the development is ready to be implemented, the previous Section 37 regime was a negotiated outcome. And just if you bear with me, Councillor, the answer to your previous question, the as of right FSI zoning is 2.5 for residential uses, 3.0 for a commercial residential property. The proposed FSI is about 7.6.
Okay. In an area that has good transit, correct?
There is good surface transit connectivity, which will hopefully improve through the implementation of Rapid TO.
Right. Okay. And then can you tell me then, with respect to the CBC, the determination in terms of how that's invested, who makes that determination?
Through the chair, if the CBC is collected as a charge at building permit stage, council directs those funds through the budget process. If the CBC is an in-kind contribution, council would elect whether to take that in-kind contribution in lieu of a CBC charge.
And where does the community input come in through this particular process? The community decides we want public art, we want affordable housing, if there is sufficient funds for that. How does that get factored into the process?
Through the chair, it would be, for an in-kind contribution, it would happen through the development approval process. Our general approach when securing in-kind contributions is to bring the recommendation with the zoning bylaw amendment that's being proposed, and that recommendation coming as a package to council. Into terms of directing community benefit charge, i.e. the account that would secure all the community benefit charge, that's a practice that I believe is emerging. There hasn't been really enough in this budget year to direct any community benefit charges, so I would imagine you'll start seeing those sorts of community projects next year.
Sure, Mr. Francesco. I guess what I'm getting at is that there is a lot of conversation and process to allow for the community input through local councillor's office. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes. In both situations, I would argue there is a lot of opportunity for input from the community through the local councillor's office.
Right. So I imagine that in all council or wards, local councillors would have an understanding as to the needs in their community, as well as I guess the stock of affordable housing that's in the community, and would want to ensure that the interest in the community and the desire to have more affordable housing would be factored into the consideration in order to arrive at a conclusion that would be in the best interest of the community, as well as the challenges that are posed with the complexity on the city with respect to the need for more housing?
Through the
Would
chair,
that be correct?
that is correct, yes.
Thank you. Those are all my questions, Mr. Chair. And I spoke already, so I don't need to speak again. Thank you. And I'll ask for a recorded vote on this item as well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other speakers on this item? Councillor Candavel?
Thank you to staff for the presentation and answering our questions. Part of the debate, the conversation that we're having as part of a city is there's no question we have to build housing, but the need for increasing stock or supply, we shouldn't sacrifice good planning principles. And that's something that's on the mind of many residents in Scarborough as we're seeing such rapid intensification without looking at some of the cultural elements that are important to complete vibrant communities. And in Scarborough, commercial retail spaces are central for those areas of communal gathering. For those who don't have a privilege of a car, the local strip mall has proven to be a source for important opportunities. So in the context of seeing increasing number of these rezoning applications, I think it gives pause for concern about how we're doing justice to the principles that are central to good planning and creating cohesive, vibrant, healthy communities, and we're not just creating warehouses to store people. And I think that's the concern that I have with this application, because it's taking away an existing commercial retail space for that local community. And of course, we've got to look at the bigger picture as part of these decisions that we make, and it's part of a bigger conversation that we have within Scarborough Community Council. I know this morning we heard the news of North York Community Council putting a wrench, as the headline put it, towards a massive redevelopment of Fairview Mall. But we don't see the same approach in our conversations within Scarborough, whether it's Malvern Mall, which is not connected to good high-order transit like Fairview. So we're seeing an inconsistent approach to how very important, far-reaching, serious development decisions are being made across our city, an inconsistent approach when it comes to these high-density development applications. And I think that's part of a big conversation across our city. In that context, the impact on the local community in terms of commercial retail, it's interesting, and I'm curious to study or review the traffic study, but I think anyone who drives around that area during peak hours recognize the traffic impacts already consistent and impactful upon the commutes of Scarborough residents. So all decisions we make impact the greater community, not just our local ward. And to Councillor Meyer's points on the appearing lack of initiative to provide inclusionary zoning, affordable housing is, I think, when we're seeking higher densities, and of course, we shouldn't kid ourselves, it is a commercial enterprise the applicant's pursuing, there needs to be greater review on how, on what is being offered to the community. And inclusionary affordable housing is an aspect on how we create actually complete communities that are mixed use, mixed purpose. And for the offering of 781 footage is, I think, inadequate for what we want to create in having walkable, livable communities. So I'm going to have trouble supporting this, and I won't be voting for it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Other speakers? Councillor Myers?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Overall, I think this is a good development. I, want to thank the local councillor. I know he takes a lot of pride in how he does his work. He's very diligent. He's very thorough. But I do have to object to the proposal to add the additional 6 stories. And I want to be clear, this is in no way an indication of the thoughtfulness that my colleague has taken into, or the work that he's done to put this amendment together. I just think that while we're still waiting for inclusionary zoning, we just can't keep passing up these opportunities to be creative and to get affordable housing built. And every time I come ask these questions, we hear the same thing over and over and over and over again. The CBC charge is not enough to build affordable housing. The CBC charge is not enough to build affordable housing. Well, I think when we have these types of opportunities, we really have to be creative in terms of working with the applicant to get what we need as a community, which is more affordable housing. If the CBC charge is not going to cut it, if we don't have any timeline as to when we're actually going to get inclusionary zoning, then we can't just keep passing up these opportunities to get the housing that we all know that we need to get built. So I will not be supporting Councillor Thompson's amendment. However, I will be supporting the application overall. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Myers. So we have before us an amendment by Councillor Thompson. All in favor of the amendment by Councillor Thompson?
Recorded vote, please, Mr. Chair.
Recorded vote.
All those in favor of the amendment before you? Councillor Ainsley, Councillor Thompson, all those opposed? Councillor Myers, Councillor Candeval, that motion fails.
Okay, and then we have the item, the recommendations in the item.
Councillor Myers was moving the item, is that correct? I thought that's,
Oh, sorry, I think Councillor Thompson's moving it. Councillor Thompson, you're moving the item?
No, I'm not.
Somebody want to move the item?
So now what happens, Mr. Chair?
Well, we have to vote on the item. So
I'll move the item.
Councillor Candeval's moving the item. All in favor of the recommendations in the report?
Recorded vote, recorded vote.
all those in favor of the recommendations? Councillor Myers, Councillor Ainsley, all those opposed? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Candeval? That item fails. The item goes to council without recommendation.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, our next item, sorry, let me reset the clock. Our next item is SC 11.2, 3060 Eglinton Avenue East zoning amendment application. This is a decision report for final approval in Ward 24. We have one speaker, Stephanie Quast from Bozefield Incorporated. Morning, Ms. Quast. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of Community Council. My name is Stephanie Quast, and I'm a land use planner and partner with Bozefields, and we act on behalf of the owner of the property, 3060 Eglinton Avenue East Developments Incorporated. We are very pleased to be here today and fully support staff's recommended approval of the proposal, which seeks to redevelop the site with 80 stacked townhouse units, all of which are 3-bedroom units, and 10 of the units are proposed as affordable housing for Habitat for Humanity. Over the last 5 years, we have worked closely with city staff to address the comments that we have received, and this includes the comments that we heard from the community. And we believe the plan before you is one that is not only appropriate in land use planning terms, but achieves many overarching city objectives. I would like to note that in response to the comments we received, both from staff and the community, the vehicular access to the proposed development is now from Eglinton Avenue East and no longer from Conn Smythe, the local street to the east of our property. And the outdoor amenity area that we have proposed has been relocated from adjacent to Eglinton Avenue, again to the east part of the property, adjacent to the existing residential community. So again, thank you to staff and the councillor in his office for the work on this proposal over the last few years. As I mentioned, we fully support the recommendation report, and I'm pleased to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Myers.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm just curious, how did this partnership with Habitat for Humanity arise, where you were able to secure 10 affordable townhouses out of an 80 over 80 townhouses.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So these lands were purchased by the owner, by our client, from Build Toronto, which is now Create TO. And that happened in 2016, 2017. And as part of that agreement for our client to buy the lands from the city, there was a mandate within that agreement that they had to provide 10 of the units fully serviced and an opportunity to construct them if they'd like for Habitat for Humanity. So this is an agreement that took place upon the sale of the property to our client.
Great. And how have you found working with Habitat for Humanity as a partner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's been a wonderful experience. They were very helpful, especially early on when we had some challenges with the site in terms of where to locate the vehicular access and so on and so forth. So all to say, it's been a positive experience, and we're very pleased to be here today after 5+ years.
Great. And final question, what do you think having affordable housing as part of this community will do to the overall livability of the community and vibrancy of the community?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we know that, as many of you have said this morning, we need more housing and we need more affordable housing. That's a mandate that we hear from our mayor, as well as many councillors. So I am happy as a planner to be here, able to support the proposal and present it to you, and I think it will be a wonderful benefit to the community, and I'm pleased to be here after all of this time. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions on this item? Councillor Candeval?
Thank you for coming out. My question is, how does, as the representative of the applicant, select the individuals who may want to rent or purchase? I'm not sure what the form is.
Through you, Mr. Chair, as Habitat Humanity will be the provider of the units, the selection process, I would imagine, would be through their organization.
Okay, and that may answer my second question, was the rate at which they're sold or rented out for would be dependent on Habitat for Humanity?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Great, and my understanding there's 10 out of the 80 that are affordable. So we're looking at a 12% of the thing, and I think that's a great example in the light of the conversations we're having here today, but in general as well.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Candeval. Other questions of the deputant? Seeing none, thank you very much. Questions of staff on this item? Councillor Myers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So, this is an example of a great project. I think we can all agree on that. How do we get more projects like this where we're getting affordable housing built into, and I understand this was because the land was purchased directly from the city. So is that type of agreement still possible under the new planning rules where as a condition for purchasing property, I know we have Housing Now, which is sort of a similar thinking, but is this type of agreement where we work directly with a housing provider like Habitat for Humanity, is this still possible under the current planning rules?
Through the chair, the short answer is yes, and most now Create Toronto processes do come with an affordable housing mandate. Similarly, in terms of policy rules, any most regeneration area or employment conversions also come with a little bit of a stronger mandate for affordable housing than previously. In this case, it was through the commercial transaction under Create's predecessor that the affordable housing units were secured.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Councillor Candeval, questions of staff?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, to staff. Could you give some context to the timeline? Because as the deputant remarked, it was 2016, 17, and it's 24 now. So what's the context for the delay?
Through the chair, a lot of the difficulty in developing the site is related to some of the technical constraints. It's rather awkward with its frontage to Eglinton. It's against the rail corridor, and our original preference, and I believe the applicant's preference as well, because it was proposed, was for a public street to service the development and actually connect through to Conn Smythe to the east through both the technical review of the application and the public consultation, which, there was concern about that connection from the public, and you'll see it in some of the correspondence today, as well as the technical review. It was very difficult with the grades to make a public street work. We decided to collectively pursue this private driveway option, which allowed for greater implementability, and the application really picked up speed once that decision was made.
So in retrospect, when we're seeing applications with clear public good, how do we ensure that it's delivered in a more timely fashion?
Yep, I think there's two parts to the question. The first part of it is certainly the new Bill 109 timelines do hasten things, as we've seen today on a couple of the items. But secondly, the idea of applying principled flexibility, we still are in pursuit of a good planning outcome, as we've heard today, and applying the good planning principles and seeing where flexibility is within those principles is definitely the approach moving forward. As is the case here, the flexibility of a private driveway solution, but that still looks and feels like a public street, sidewalks, trees, appropriate geometries, we're able to accelerate the application.
Thank you. And I'm trying to situate where this is. 3060 gives me a parking lot right now with some trees on the side. Is that the proposal?
Sure. So, and maybe on the location map in the report, there's a better situated, a simplified plan, but it sort of runs in a very limited, against the rail corridor, a very limited frontage to Eglinton Avenue East.
South of the rail corridor?
South of the rail corridor, between Eglinton and the rail corridor, and it kind of circles around the ambulance station that's there.
Okay.
Or-
Does that include the restaurant is going as well?
It does not. No, it is currently entirely vacant land.
Okay. Excellent. So that was city-owned land that CreateTO in 2016 started the process for this application?
That's correct. It was Build Toronto, though, which was a different corporation with a slightly different mandate, but yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cannavale. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none. Speakers? Councillor Cannavale?
This is a good news story that I'm happy to support, given the availability of affordability. We're looking at more than 10% in what is housing with dignity. We're not looking at shoeboxes to store people, but we're looking at providing families without means a dignified place to call home as part of an application process that I think centers the public good as well as their own commercial interest, and something that should be rewarded, highlighted as where government is balancing and brokering the interests of the private sector, community, and those vulnerable families that are looking for dignified living. And I'm happy to support this and speak to this to our colleagues at City Council. So thank you to everyone involved.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Cannavale. Other speakers? Councillor Myers?
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I just also will keep this very brief. Thank you very much. I think this is a great development. This is a good news story for Scarborough, for city planning, and for the 10 families that will have homes that they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford in this city. So thank you all for your very hard work on this, including the applicant.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Myers. Other speakers on this item? I'll be moving and supporting the recommendations in this report. I want to thank Bowesfield for all of their work, for accommodating the residents in my community, in particular on Conn Smythe Drive that had some concerns about connectivity. I also want to thank you for all of your work that you did with Habitat for Humanity. I think this is the 5th Habitat for Humanity project that's taken place in my ward since I've been in office. They've been a great community partner, helping residents in my area achieving affordable housing and helping build a strong, vibrant community, which is one of my main goals. And I think this is another excellent example. of that partnership of them working with a developer and with the City of Toronto as well. Thank you. All in favor of the recommendations in the report? And that carries. Thank you. Our next item is SC 11.4, 4151 to 4155 Sheppard Avenue East and 5 Lamont Avenue Official Plan and Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application Decision Report for approval. I have one registered speaker. Oh, sorry, two speakers. The first one is Rhoda Potter of the Agincourt Village Community Association, followed by Severina Sesta. Morning, Ms. Potter. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. First of all, I am president of Agincourt Village Community Association, which this site is within our boundaries. We understand and we welcome the intensification of housing because we know how we need this housing within Toronto, and especially within Scarborough. However, we also understand the intensification that's happening all along Sheppard Avenue and within the Agincourt secondary plan. We have to realize that this building that exists now houses Agincourt Community Services Association, who support many people in Scarborough. We also need to look at good planning principles, as has been mentioned this morning. AVCA has grave concerns about the lack of higher order transit along Sheppard Avenue. It appears to us that a canyon of high-rise condominiums, 30 to 43 stories high, are being constructed between McCowan and Don Mills stations, with very little interest from the city to improve the transit, the higher order transit on Sheppard Avenue. Councillor Mantis, I believe, I think it was in 2022, seconded a motion that was put forward by the late Councillor Lai to promote the Sheppard subway. Yet our community has heard nothing about improved transit from the city since then. Meanwhile, silos of condominiums are presented and approved by city planning. AVCA feels it is time to look at the bigger picture as a whole along Sheppard Avenue. We now have along Sheppard at Brimley, at Glen Watford, at Midland, at Lamont, at Kennedy, at Birchmount, at Warden, at Pharmacy, at Victoria Park, and Don Mills. We have constructed or in construction or planned high-rise condominiums. These condos are built with fewer parking spaces than units. Higher order transit on Sheppard Avenue is desperately needed. Yes, Metrolinx is presently working on a business case. The Sheppard subway was actually planned in 1986. It's now 2024. AVCA, CD Farquharson, Rosewood, Heathwood, and Pleasant View Community Associations request the City Councillors support Metrolinx as it presently is building its business case for a Sheppard extension to the TTC Line 1. AVCA requests that city planners consider the impact of the lack of higher order transit when evaluating the condominium projects as silos along Sheppard Avenue. If City Council supports condominium proposals on Sheppard Avenue, we implore you to work with us for higher order transit on Sheppard Avenue East between the construction of the McCowan subway and the present Don Mills subway. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Ms. Potter. Questions of the deputant, Councillor Candavel.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you, Rhoda, for your deputation. Appreciate it a great deal. You spoke to the need, rightfully so, for high order transit along Sheppard. Certainly buses don't cut it. given the intensity and the existing residential population. Has there been any advocacy work, commentary by the local MPP or the ruling party in regards to this request of extending the Sheppard subway east to Scarborough?
Yes, very much so. We have had tremendous support from our MPP, Aris Babikian, support from MPP Raymond Chow. The meeting, the public meeting that was held, which they hosted, had probably over 200 people in attendance who very much support a Sheppard subway. And these are conversations that we as community groups are building the case and working with Metrolinx, because we seriously think, because of a cemetery that's at Midland and Sheppard, because of CPR tracks, and because of the intense building that is already going on, a Sheppard subway is definitely needed. We have 2 lanes on each side. There are 4 lanes on these streets with no turnouts for buses. It is already congested. But yes, they're very much in support of us.
And has the province or Metrolinx given indication? I know these are sensitive decisions and involve a lot of money, and timing is, of course, important to a ruling party, but do you get a sense of indication?
We're still at a business case level. You have to realize that we've been through these conversations throughout the years, and I'm old enough to remember them, when there was to be a subway stop at 401 and Kennedy, where there are 9 high-rise condominiums with, by the way, 1 exit to Kennedy Road. They were to have a subway station there. That was canceled. Then we were to have the LRT along Sheppard. That was canceled. We have absolutely nothing, yet planning is looking at, and developers are looking at, individual sites being built without the infrastructure in place for moving people around.
Thank you for that context. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennable. Other questions to the deputy? Councillor Myers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I'm just wondering if you could give your thoughts on the importance of some of the community services that are housed in this building. There's a food bank and there's Agent Court Community Services Association. Just what they do to help improve the quality of life in Agent Court, and also my community, because it's right near the border of Midland.
Mm-hmm. Agent Court Community Services have been in use for many, many years, and they support people throughout Scarborough. Their main food bank is the Dorset Hub, which is on Kennedy Road, but for many people, they have an outreach where they support throughout the city, not just in Scarborough. We work very closely with them. They work with many, many families and support many families to try to find housing as well. It is a staple, and in speaking with the director, Lee Soda, she doesn't know where she's going to go if this building is not accessible for them.
And I'm wondering if you know if part of the reason that they don't know anywhere they're going to go is because there is a lack. It's very difficult to find affordable, low-cost retail space in Scarborough that's also accessible.
It's very difficult to find any space, even for us as an association, to find AGM meeting rooms. And this is another thing, as part of this, all of this development, we lack the infrastructure. We lack the recreational facilities. We lack the schools, which are already full, but these developments are going up. I think there's a serious item here that needs to be looked at as a whole. As communities, when we say complete communities, we are not complete communities. We need those spaces.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions of staff on this item? Sorry, Councillor, you asked questions already.
No, to staff.
Okay, sorry. Okay, questions of staff?
I just want to clarify what staff is refusing this application.
Through the chair, it is recommended that the application be refused at this time, but also recommended that council explore dispute resolution techniques to see if there is a way to resolve the issues identified.
Okay, so what we're voting on is the staff recommendation to refuse and to discuss further with the applicant. So this would go back to the applicant and staff to work on?
Yes, there's an opportunity for dispute resolution, either as part of an appeal process or prior to an appeal process. And there's also a recommendation that if the issues are resolved, that the item is not appealed, or if the appeal is withdrawn, to return to council for a decision on any settled
You say
matters.
council, Scarborough Community Council.
Scarborough Community Council via City Council, I think, yeah.
So if we're voting for this, then you and the planner associated with this file would then work with the local councillor and the applicant to address the concerns you've raised?
Through the chair, that's correct. In a normal circumstance, pre-Bill 109, we would have recirculated the application, had that longer conversation, but to meet the timelines, we needed a decision. The recommended refusal would be a decision, but the continued conversation is part of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so and if you could crystallize the main concern for your refusal.
Through you, Chair. We had several items that we were looking at and everything. One of them being the transition, because there is a number of neighborhood designated areas under the official plan in the area. So we wanted to ensure, again, shadow impacts and things that we've spoken about, as well as just looking at the avenue segment study that was provided by the applicant to assist with that transition. It was actually showing future developments in towers and proposals that the city's not received. So impacts on other towers and not actually what is physically currently there right now. And again, no applications. Other things that we were looking at is also too is about the retail replacement being appropriate, because we're aware of what's going on the site right now. And we wanted to ensure that with new units coming in, we also want to ensure that there's appropriate non-residential in the area as well. And then one other item too, just as a again, highlighting key items, is that we wanted to make sure that anything associated with in-kind and community benefit charges in that would be allowing for assistance of whether it be affordable housing, bike share programs, car share programs, and things like that to be operational on the site.
Understood, thank you. And is school capacity part of your reflection?
Through you, Speaker, yes, the schools were considered and everything, and they showed capacity concerns at the public school and not at the Catholic or French.
And given that, how do you intersect that with the other applications that are also in pre-form or current form?
So through the chair, they're considered broadly in the existing approvals, as you referenced, as well as new ones. The school board, as you know, provides does not object to the redevelopment, but does provide a series of warning clauses and standard conditions should the development advance. They are, I believe, doing a pupil accommodation review in the area right now, as some of the schools are oversubscribed, but other schools further north are not as fully subscribed. So they're seeing if the boundary adjustments could balance some of the enrollment and accommodate students generated by the developments.
But through you, Chair, as to staff, do you think it's not imperative that actual capacity inform staff's decision on units and intensity?
Through the chair, school capacity is beyond the control of the city. So for us to specifically rely on that as a mechanism to fail a development proposal would be a difficult position to defend at the OLT, and we've been unsuccessful in the past.
Respectfully, it is in capacity. If we're bringing in more units, we're bringing in more families and therefore children.
But the school board has the ability to increase the size of their schools. And
Having served on the school board for 8 years to get capital funding.
Sorry, Councillor, could you let staff finish their answers when you question them?
I'm just being respectful of time, that's why. So respectfully, for school board to get capital dollars, it's next to impossible from any provincial government. We saw 2 provincial governments in my time there. So I do think that is central to how we make decisions. If we are creating impacts that puts children and teachers in portables. It's not, as a former teacher, thankfully I never had to, but my colleagues who did have to teach in
Sorry,
portables.
Counselor, you're
it's
supposed
not-
to question staff, not speak to them at this point.
Oh, yes, that's right. Thank you. Still learning.
Other questions of staff on this item? Sorry, my apologies. I have a stapler and two sheets together. I missed a deputant, Severina Sesta. Is Severina here? Severina's online? Severina, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me? Thank
Yep.
you.
You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready. My apologies.
Not a problem. Thank you. I did have to log off, and I'm sorry I didn't get to hear everything. But thank you, Mr. Chair and Council, for hearing me. And from what I understand, the proposal has been refused at this time, which I'm very grateful for. I've been a resident on Lamont for over 20 years, and I am very happy about where I am and our community. And it is such an amazing community to have a 46-story building with 700 units with only 300 parking spots is just something I was not looking forward to having. We're a very close-knit area and community, and I do agree that the infrastructure in the area does not support such a large building. Regardless of schools is a big one. I purposely chose my street so that my boys can go to Little Agincourt, as it's called. But the developments, for example, Village Green has actually had to change where the kids go to school, and I would hate to see any new families not be able to go to Little Agincourt because of such a structure. Also worried about the impact it will have on the rest of the community, such as healthcare and other services. And yes, Agincourt Services is a large part of our group. And provides a lot of support for local families and the community. So I just really wanted to take the opportunity to thank everybody for your consideration and really appreciate at this time the refusal of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the deputant? Seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Sesta, and my apologies again, once again, for missing you. So we're on back to questions of staff. Councillor Thompson, questions of staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff. This particular application doesn't meet the provincial guideline. It's inconsistent with that. It also doesn't meet our own city policy. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair, that is correct.
And so how does this sort of equate and or balancing the timing interests with respect to Bill 109? How does that affect us as or your department?
Through the chair, because we couldn't resolve the outstanding issues in time, we brought the recommendation forward. It does constrain our ability to have a full conversation with the applicant. There was a community consultation meeting had on this proposal, and some of the concerns were raised, but it does not provide appropriate time for revisions, and unfortunately could mean the specter of appeal and these matters not being resolved through local decision-making, but being done through the OLT.
Yes, thanks very much for that answer, and I appreciate that. But I guess what I'm getting at is that the development proposal is inconsistent with a provincial policy statement, the city's official plan, as well as the Agincourt secondary plan, along with a tall building design guideline. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair, that is correct.
Right. So when that occurs, how is it then that Bill 109 puts us into a situation in which the application itself doesn't meet any of the intended policy or guidelines, but then it puts the city at a disposition in which we have to respond according to Bill 109. Doesn't that sort of handicap us?
Through the chair, it does prevent opportunity to bring the application to be more aligned with both provincial and local policies.
Right. And so what I guess I'm getting at, is there not a need for us to bring this forward? Obviously, the provincial government is the one who introduces Bill 109, but it continues to constrain your ability as the, executive director for the East District and your staff to be able to respond to an application that's consistent with all of our own policies. How is that then sort of our problem? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Through the chair, it's part of the legislative constraints that we're dealing with right now, and I know that there is advocacy work underway to have the province hopefully revisit some of these punitive measures, because it is overly punitive on the city to make a decision quickly, which is not necessarily the best decision for the city.
Okay. And so who's doing that work? Is it the chief planner? Is it a letter from the mayor? Is it a directive to the Minister of Municipal Affairs? How's that being done? Because as I see through Bill 109 and the elements of Bill 23, there are elements that ties the city as well as puts us in a very difficult situation, which also is punitive in nature. And so how is it that we could sort of just accept that as a given? And I guess my question is, again, who is working towards highlighting these issues so that we could bring those forward in order to identify the constraints and the limits that it imposes on you and your team?
My understanding is that there are ongoing conversations between all municipalities and the minister right now. The minister before the holidays did indicate a willingness to engage municipal partners. And in terms of who, the interim chief planner is definitely involved in conversations, but as are her counterparts across all municipalities in Ontario responding to this legislation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Questions of staff? Councillor Myers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So this proposal is for 726 units. Just to be clear, there is no affordable housing proposed as part of this development, correct?
Through you, Chair, that is correct. No affordable housing was proposed.
Was there any attempt by the applicant to offer space for the Agincourt Community Village Association, or Agincourt Community Services Association and the food bank so that they could remain on site providing services to the community?
Through you, Chair, based on the proposal that was received and circulated, no, there was no consideration for the specific replacement of what is currently there right now, and the non-residential space that was proposed is actually less, sitting at approximately 521 square meters and the ground floor.
Thank you. And I'm just reviewing the application. What are the community benefits being proposed by the applicant in terms of for this development project to go forward? Are there any?
Through you, Chair, no, there were not.
No. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Speakers on this item? Councillor Myers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I just want to say this is a very disappointing application to see. It's terrible planning. It takes an important community institution out of the community with no real plan or seemingly care to replace it. There's no attempt at all to build anything of any value for anyone other than the developer. And I just think this is really sad that we have this type of application coming forward in this day and age. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions? Speakers, sorry. Councillor Candeval?
To echo Through you, Mr. Chair, to echo Councillor Meyer's assessment, this is a very weak application that doesn't acknowledge the impact long-standing community service organizations have played for the to the vibrancy of a very long-standing community. Agincourt is one of the first villages that was settled in what we now call Toronto, and serving a very vibrant, diverse, changing immigrant community is reflective of the lack of good planning principles and consistency across our city. When we look at how the core of Toronto developed, it was predicated on having good services, amenities, recreation, from the Sky Dome to music venues. That's how we create and intensify neighborhoods that have good amenities, recreational facilities, high-order transit. To see those principles completely abdicated, both by us and by the province and developers, is of considerable and consequential impact to how we build our cities. Right now, to my earlier comments, that we're creating just intense warehouses for people is a part of the work that we do here. And I hope as we refuse this, that staff hold the line and push this developer back to come forward with a proposal that's meaningful. I understand the context of the GO station, that makes sense, but we need to be keeping the community interests in mind. And I think we're seeing, in my 2 months here, a disturbing pattern of giving what developers want without acknowledging who lives there. And particularly when we see how these decisions are made in Scarborough and City of Toronto, it's increasingly the vast majority of the decision makers do not live in these neighborhoods or in Scarborough. And that's something deeply concerning to me and so many resident groups across Scarborough, that decisions are being made by those who do not have to live with those. And this inconsistency traverses the city. We see the Danforth, 7 high-order transit subway stops with densities of 2 stories, right? So we're seeing, as I alluded to earlier with the North York Community Council decision, at a place where there is high-order transit at Fairview Mall, North York Community Council and their planning staff standing up to that development. But we see in Northeast Scarborough, in Malvern Mall, when that application came forward, a heavily racialized, underserved community with poor bus service, seeing the go-ahead for the demolition of a beloved community mall for 20 to 30-story condos. So this is part of a bigger conversation of the decisions that we make here at Community Council. And it raises the need for all stakeholders to bring these questions as part of a city debate, a provincial debate, and how decisions are being made on this floor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Other speakers on this item? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank the staff and the leadership of our planning staff for not simply bending to this proposal. It's unthinkable that the proposal come forward in the manner and in the form that it has when it doesn't conform to any of our policies. And not only our policies, the provincial policy guideline, the statement that was, I believe, 2020, that is intended certainly on balancing the interests. There is no balance of interest here with respect to this particular application. And so the staff have identified the issues and concerns, and because they are compelled to respond in a fashion according to the time that's outlined in Bill 109, we are obviously here tasked with the ability to refuse this to help staff to have more time to deal with the applicant. And I don't know who the applicant is, but it suggests, based on what's been presented so far, that this is an applicant that seriously has no real interest with respect to the community, as along with the amazing work that is done on a daily basis by AXA, the Agent Port Community Association, under the leadership of its amazing director, Lee Soda. They have a facility in my ward, Mr. Chair, on Kennedy Road, just in the Kennedy and Ellesmere area. And it's extraordinary the work that they do there to help so many people on so many different fronts. I think the food bank has been mentioned, but they do a lot more than just the food bank. They help people to find jobs. They help them with respect to placement in better opportunities and using their facilities as a forum where members of the community can utilize the space. Mr. Chair, I guess there's another open mic somewhere. It's not muted. It's just very noisy. I don't know if you can hear it. I can hear it from my end. So it's really important for us to informed and stand with staff with respect to the refusal here, because what is actually being presented to us is not something that would be acceptable in any community, in any society, quite frankly. I just find that this is, and it's a shot across the bow that I'm not sure what they're aiming at, because there's no way that this would be acceptable. So I'll pass it back on to the staff for their expert negotiation and deliberation on this particular application, and we fully endorse and support what they're doing. And again, just want to thank Lee Soda and her amazing leadership for AXA. AXA has been around for such a long time. They've done outstanding work, and we need to ensure that they're protected at all costs. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I believe that's everybody. Sorry, and just on myself, just on behalf of Councillor Mantis, who unfortunately due to personal circumstances couldn't be here this morning, but also wanted me to express his concerns over this application, which is outlined in the report. The concerns that he has with it, not fitting in with his community, conflicting with a number of policies that we have in place, and also wanted me to thank on his behalf the residents that came out this morning to make their deputation and their concerns known to the community. So we have the recommendations before us to refuse the application. All in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. And before we go to the next item, Councillor Candeval has asked me to, if we could reopen SC 11.1 for the purpose of revoting on the motion. So I'm going to move all in favor of reopening 11.1. In favor of reopening 11.1. And then all in favor of the recommendations in 11.1. Opposed? Sorry, Councillor Thompson, did you want to record a vote on this one?
Yes, why don't we, Mr. Chair?
Okay, all in favor of the recommendations in 11.1?
All those in favor to adopt the recommendations, Councillor Myers, Councillor Candeval, Councillor Ainsley. Any opposed? Councillor Thompson, that item carries.
Okay, thank you, and that item carries. Our next item on our agenda is SC 11.5, 10 Viewbank Road, application for a fence exemption in Ward 20. I have one registered speaker, Trevor Tyre. He's online, okay.
Hi there, everybody.
Good morning, Mr. Tyre. You have 5 minutes to address the committee whenever you're ready.
Well, great. Thank you so much, everyone, Chair and committee. After hearing a lot of big things today, be it towers and shadow effects and infrastructure and communities, I'm bringing something very small to you. We're talking about centimeters. We put a pool into our backyard, and unfortunately, there were some mistakes made along the way, and we're here to ask for a little leniency and support to stick with what we have. I'm not sure if I can share the screen at all. Is that possible? Okay. I'm not sure if I can share the scheme, but I will just talk through this in the meantime.
You should be able to share your screen.
That's great. Okay, let's try that now. I don't have access to that, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. All right. If you could talk us through what you'd like us to see.
Yep, we'll talk through it. So basically, we installed a pool last year. With that, there were some errors made along the way. Unfortunately, there's 2 errors. We have our existing property line border fence, and it's on an angle. So part of our pool, our new pool, half of it meets regulations, and the other half does not. And we're talking about a very small amount. So we exceed expectations or rules. But then we come in to be 0.07 meters or 7 centimeters into territory. And we don't want to be too close to the pool. And this is where we're trying to ask for forgiveness so we don't have to go through and remove the fence, redo it, and disrupt our neighbor's garden and property. The other part of this is the pool enclosure fence. We have a glass panel that is, it is 0.085 meters, too small. It should be a little bit taller. And we're asking for leniency on that matter as well. This is all about safety. And so we know that this is about protecting our kids. We've got 2 young children, 9 and 11. And if we didn't think this was safe, the extra distance and height, we wouldn't be asking for this. Part of my presentation was the 2 cans of tuna, which is the distance that we're asking for as a discrepancy here. So, and respectfully, the city planner group has requested that we do replace everything, and they're recommending against our request. And I do respect that. We're asking should the committee grant us some leniency here, that we would replace the fences when they are needed to be done so next time. And so we would meet compliance then. We're just asking for a little help here. I haven't been working for a couple of years. This is a lot of money to go out and do this. So we made some decisions during COVID, and unfortunately, I'm not in a great position right now to deal with this. We have our neighbors who have given letters of commitment to support us. They've come over, they've looked at everything. It really is quite minor. These are partial errors too. It's not not intentional either. Just accidents that during the construction our pool construction team made, and we're looking for a little help just to close this out for us, knowing that safety is paramount. We've got 3 gates to the backyard. We've put a lot of effort into the safety to try to adhere to the rules and regulations, and we just want to see if we could ask for a little bit of leniency here from the committee. I don't have much more to say, but I'm willing to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tyre. Appreciate your time. Questions of the deputant, Councillor Conovel.
Thank you, Trevor, for making your case. And I heard that the distance we're talking about is 2 cans of tuna. So what is that roughly? 10 centimeters?
No, it's less than that.
Less.
So yeah, it's 8.5 centimeters
Gotcha.
for the glass panel. So when you walk out of the deck, it's just that. And then it's actually shorter than that for the pool. The distance to the body of the water of the pool is shorter than that. So it's 7, sorry, let me just get the right number for you. It is actually 7 centimeters for the hot tub and 5 centimeters for the pool.
Great, good to know. Thank you for sharing that, the extent or the minute extent this is proposing. Thank you.
Considering everything we've talked about today, I feel sheepish being here talking to you about this.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Conovel. Other questions of the deputant? Seeing none. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tyre. Questions of staff? No questions of staff? Speakers? Councillor Kendall?
I'd like to move a motion granting an exemption. I shared it with staff, and I hope councillors can, given the deputation and the minute change, that this would cause undue hardship for the family, and to grant the exception.
Okay. Any questions of the mover? Seeing none, all in favor of the recommendation amendment by Councillor Candeval? That carries. Item is amended. All in favor? That carries. Correct. Sorry, my apologies. Next item is SC 11.8, 70 Falaise Road, application for a fence exemption in Ward 24. We have one registered speaker, Mr. Scott Harrison. Come on down, Scott.
Good morning. Once again, since I was here, I thought I would speak on this. Well, I do support staff recommendations on this, but I want to give a little context to it because years ago there was a small house on this property, a 3-bedroom bungalow that was sold, and like many homes in the community, have been torn down and in some cases big monster homes put up. This house is on Falaise. It was advertised for sale as a 10-bedroom, 11-bathroom home and has 4 separate entrances. And when it was built, a request for a fence exemption around November 5th, 2019 was there on your agenda, but they withdrew it at the time. But to my knowledge, there was never any resubmission for an exemption. And I emailed Councillor Ainsley's office in around August about this fence that had been installed on the property, as I believe it was still in violation of the city bylaws. And I was advised by staff that they would look into it and follow it up with city staff as it had been installed. I followed up again on September 1st, as I still didn't get a response back. Since then, this house has been sold. Originally, it had been up for sale, but it didn't sell. Then it was a power of sale, and I'm assuming it's sold under power of sale. The city then posted about 4 or 5 notices on the property for bylaw infractions, and one of them, as I recall, was for a fence violation. And again, I'm hoping that staff, the recommendations be approved for this fence or I hope you approve that the staff recommendation that this fence exemption not be allowed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harrison. Questions of the deputant? Seeing none. Thanks, Scott.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it. Questions of staff? Seeing none. I just had a question around to staff, licensing staff.
Yes.
How many notices were issued to the homeowner for this property?
Through the chair, is this regarding the fence or other bylaws as well?
So the fence.
So through the chair, there were only one notice of violation that was issued against the subject property. There was an additional complaint in 2019, which the speaker did refer to, and that relates to the fence exemption that was withdrawn.
Okay, and so how the deputant said that the property was sold. How does MLS know that the property was sold? Like if the property was sold, does that notice carry over on title of property from one homeowner to the next?
Through the speaker, yes. If we are notified through the proper channels, through city clerks, that the property has been sold, then the new owner would then get the notice. The notice would be reissued, but the existing violation would carry over to the new owners.
Okay. And have you had any communication with the new owner about the issues with the fence around the property?
Only through the fence exemption and through our notices of violation.
Okay. So you haven't had any communication back from them?
With your indulgence, I'm just going to refer to the file real quick. There has been communication through our office and the property owner, which then related to the fence, which then gave them the option to apply for a fence exemption.
Okay, which they haven't done.
Which they, yes, this is what we're here for today.
Okay, all right. And they're not here this morning.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Speakers on this item? Seeing none, so I'm going to move the recommendation in the report that we refuse to grant the application for the exemption. All in favor? And that carries. Our next item is SC 11.9, Toynbee Trail Parking Amendments. We have one registered speaker, Mr. Gerard Barabo. I believe Mr. Barabo online? Not online? Okay. And he's not here. And I know we've had, my office has had communication with Mr. Barabo, who spoke about this item last month when it was deferred, and I think we've reached an accommodation for all the neighbors on the street, so I'm going to move the recommendations in the report. My apologies, I'm moving the amendment first. Thank you, Nancy. I'd be in a lot of trouble with it, Nancy. Yep. So I'm moving the recommendation that's on the screen. All in favor? And that carries. Item is amended? No item is amended. All in favor of the item as shown on the screen. Thank you, Nancy. And the chair needs more coffee too. All right, that item is dealt with. So then we have two items remaining that were introduced by Councillor Myers this morning. Oh, thank you, Nancy, for keeping me out of trouble. Not so quick, Nancy says to the chair. Councillor Myers, you held SC 11.10, Metrolinx Scarborough Subway Extension, time extension of temporary sidewalk closure to McCowan Road. Questions of staff?
No questions of, actually, yes, there is one question. Can you explain the permitting process, how it works in order for Metrolinx to continue to close off this portion of sidewalk on Sheppard and McCowan?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I introduce myself as Navi Tatkar, the manager of Transit Infrastructure Projects Unit in Transportation Services. In terms of the permitting for the closure of this sidewalk, Metrolinx contractor is obligated to apply for a permit prior to closing the sidewalk. The city staff reviews the need for the sidewalk closure and also reviews the alternative available for pedestrians to cross safely around this closure. So upon reviewing all the traffic-related matters, we notify the local councillor about the request from Metrolinx for the closure, and subsequently we proceed with issuing the required permit. And the permits are usually issued in a 6 months interval in case there is a long-term closure request. So let's say in this case, if it's a year-long request, we'll usually issue the permit only for 6 months and then review the need again and then reissue the extension. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Yes, it does. So in the report, it states, this extension is sought to accommodate the ongoing tunnel boring operations which have experienced schedule adjustments due to challenges associated with the tunnel boring machine operation and maintenance. Has Metrolinx given any indication as to, one, if the project is behind, and two, how far behind it, if it is behind, how far it is behind?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Myers, there has not been any official communication from Metrolinx to say that the project is behind schedule. Yeah, they have mentioned that the tunnel boring machines have suffered delay due to some maintenance related issues with the boring machine itself. So I can't really comment on the overall project schedule, and I believe that we can get that update from Metrolinx and provide to Councillor Myers.
Thank you very much. No further questions for staff.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none. Speakers, Councillor Myers.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I'd like to move a motion to amend. So the motion is two parts. One, it changes the extension from December 31st, 2025 to December 31st, 2024, so the end of this year. And two, it also adds in a recommendation that when they come back for the permit in order to keep the sidewalk closed, that they provide us with an update as to the schedule of the operations happening at Sheppard and McCowan, just so we have an update as to whether or not the project is still on track, and if not, how far behind schedule they are. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Questions of the mover? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Through you to Councillor Myers. Councillor Myers, I'm just wondering if you had reached out to Metrolinx to understand the nature of the request that they were making to 2025.
So I have not reached out to Metrolinx directly. We had the conversations with staff. We had those conversations. I have had conversations with representatives from Metrolinx, and I was at no time told that the project was behind schedule. I've been publicly stating to my residents and as TTC chair that this project will be completed at 2030, and I have had no indications otherwise until I read this in the report. So when they do come back with the permit, I would just like them to provide an updated timeline as to whether or not they're still on track.
Right, so you would be amenable then, if they're not on track, that your motion, which is to bring it, advance it to December of this year, you were prepared to, I guess, pending on their response to the query that you would have to make some changes if necessary?
Correct. So if they're not on track, I'm not going to say that they can't close the sidewalk. They're still going to need the sidewalk. So I just want to make sure that they have an official request to come back with the information.
Yeah. So I want to just make sure I understand it sufficiently. They're asking for a longer period. You're reducing that request to a shorter period. So, but you haven't had a chance to ask them what is the reason, in as much as you have indicated to us that you've spoken with them and they didn't address this issue. I'm just wondering if even during this period leading up to you preparing this motion, if you or your staff had an opportunity, perhaps you could have reached out to get a sense as to what the challenges were prior to moving this motion.
So when I spoke to them, they never gave me any indications that there were challenges. And so I would like just to have that opportunity. Again, it's not holding up the project. It's just requiring them to come back to all of us, because I think we all would want that information, as the Scarborough subway affects everyone in this room, as to when the completion of this project is happening and if it's still scheduled to be completed by 2030.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Myers.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Other questions of the mover? Seeing none. Sorry, Councillor Myers, I just wanted to ask, so they've asked for the sidewalk to be closed for a certain amount of time?
It's closed currently.
Yeah, so they've asked for it to be closed. We have the recommendation here before us. You're cutting that timeline in half, but Metrolinx never said to you that there was any issues around the projects.
No, in fact, I actually went to a community consultation in January at a condominium that's across from the project when they set up one of those consultation booths, and I asked several questions, and at no time was there any indication given to either me or any of the participants in the conversation that the project was delayed. I didn't know there was any delay until I read this.
So the timeline they're asking for, would that not just simply be what they think is appropriate to get their work done?
I don't know. They've never reached out. That's why I would like this information so that when they come back, they can give an updated timeline as to whether or not they're still on track, and just sort of give a timeline as to when they think they will be on track if they're not. So I'm not trying to impede the closing of the sidewalk, just asking them to come back at December 31st with updated information as to the timeline of the project. Because right now I don't have any.
Okay, all right, thank you. Other speakers on this item? Seeing none, so we have the motion by Councillor Myers in front of us. All in favor?
Recorded vote, please, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Recorded vote.
All those in favor of the amendment by Councillor Myers, Councillor Candeval, Councillor Ainsley. All those opposed? Councillor Thompson. That motion carries.
Okay, item is amended. All in favor? Opposed? And that carries. All right, our next item is SC 11.17, safety improvements at the intersection of Brimley Road and McNicoll Avenue. Does anybody have any questions of staff? Councillor Myers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. What is the standard protocol when this type of tragedy happens in terms of a cyclist is killed by a motor vehicle?
Through the chair, speaking on behalf of Transportation Services, we do have a standard protocol for all fatal collisions in the City of Toronto, excluding those on expressways and private property. And that is as follows. Firstly, staff will attend immediately, typically within 1 or 2 business days, to undertake an investigation. Typically, this is very high level. At that point, we don't have the police report, just the media reports. So it's just a general overview. However, for collisions involving vulnerable road users, such as cyclists or pedestrians, we will undertake a more detailed review through our consultant assignment with a broader staff attendance, including cycling and pedestrian projects, Vision Zero, and undertake a much more on-site, in-depth review. And that's for all vulnerable road user collisions in the City of Toronto.
Thank you. And have there been similar incidents at this intersection involving pedestrians or cyclists, as this intersection is part of, it's part of the Finch Hydro Corridor, so you have quite a lot of cyclists going through this area.
Through the chair, I'm not aware of any off the top of my head, but certainly that would be investigated through the detailed review. Obviously, we do look at the collision that occurred, resulting in the fatality, but we also look at the history of collisions at that intersection, of the type that involved, but of all collisions in general.
Thank you very much.
Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, all in favor? That carries. And I'm just going to move a motion to extend the meeting to finish the last item, as it's 12:27. All in favor of extending the item to finish the meeting to finish our business? Carried. Our last item is, number 18. SC 11.18, Scarborough Civic Center 2025 Strategic Plan. Questions of staff? Councillor Myers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Is there anyone from local economic development here? No? Okay, that's fine. Then no, I don't have any questions.
Excuse me, Councillor, through you, Mr. Chair, it's Ian Brown from the Business Retention and Expansion Unit, Scarborough Civic Center.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. So I guess my first question is there a possibility of in the viewpoint of local economic development, of better use of the current Scarborough Civic Center assets, particularly the space that we might be able to provide businesses in terms of providing low-cost startup space for businesses that want to start their businesses but maybe don't have the capital to afford the rents that are currently being charged on the market.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that would be something best addressed to our small business center management. We do have space currently in startup bikes, and then subsequently on other days of the week, it is possible to schedule an appointment. But in terms of what I would call a sublease to startup businesses for their ongoing use, I know that's something that's been discussed, but it hasn't been something that our business retention and expansion group has discussed. So that would I would have to check with my colleagues in the small business unit to better understand what conclusions they've come to on that question.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions on this item? Councillor Candavel?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Is it Ian?
Yes, Ian Brown.
Ian Brown.
And what's the name of the unit that you work in?
So at Scarborough Civic Center, through you, Mr. Chair, we have our business growth services section of economic development, represented by 3 staff doing business retention and expansion. We typically work with the medium-sized and larger companies, say more than 10 employees. We also have our small business unit, formerly called Enterprise Toronto, which has a number of staff advised on startups.
Okay.
And we also have representation for the BIA unit. We have 1 staff member who typically works for Scarborough Civic Center.
Oh, thank you. The reason I asked the question is I know pre-pandemic or during the pandemic, former Mayor Tory had indicated intentions to relocate city employees to Scarborough Civic Center. Would your office know the status of that plan? Or is this with a different department?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is not our department that would be handling it, but I am familiar through my work with the Scarborough Business Association that this question has been raised on this occasion. The presentations made by the former mayor did indicate that I believe.
Oh, Ian, you're going in and out, so
Sorry,
I'll
Ian,
follow up maybe with a phone call next week or something.
I would do.
Yeah, I think this.
Sorry, Ian, we're having trouble hearing you, Ian.
How is it now? I believe I muted myself inadvertently.
Okay. No, thank you for sharing your comments, Ian. I appreciate it. I'll follow up with a phone call with you next in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions of staff? Seeing none. Speakers? Councillor Myers? Play rock, paper, scissors.
Good one. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to, through you, thank Councillor Myers for bringing this idea of a strategic plan for the Scarborough Civic Center. Connects with so many conversations around our city, both in the business, cultural, certainly, recreational, and community spaces to really create, bring back a vibrancy to this space that was so beautifully designed bias, Scarborough bias aside, I think the best civic center in the city. And but a center or building is only good as its purpose and the people whom it serves. So I really welcome and appreciate this motion by Councillor Myers to create a strategic plan to serve the heart of Scarborough. And when a Canadian hero, Terry Fox, decided to come to Toronto, he made it a point to stop here at the Scarborough Civic Centre. That was the height of Scarborough's vibrancy, civic life, and it's a civic institution that we need to bring back and provide supports, whether economic, social, community abilities to. We have incredible talent that comes out. As you know, this weekend is NBA All-Star Weekend, and Scarborough hero Lily Singh is going to be playing in the celebrity game, something I'm looking forward to, but it speaks to the amount of cultural talent and output that we create here, from Mike Myers to the weekend, and making this a space that's accessible by the tremendous up-and-coming talent, music, cultural, within Scarborough is much welcomed. And as part of this, I'm adding an amendment I hope is friendly to Councillor Myers, and if staff can share it. I know, to speak to my first point, this is a conversation many spaces are having, including the Toronto District School Board, who we share space here with. And my friendly amendment is to involve and include Scarborough TDSB trustees as part of this conversation to advance the strategic plan. And I'm hopeful everyone can support that and really do some good work this year, which would produce the strategic plan next year that can revitalize and rejuvenate such an important place to almost 700,000 people in Scarborough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, did you give your motion to the clerks? They have it? I don't think it's there yet.
I could read it. It's adding part F, involve and explore conversations with Scarborough TDSB trustees to advance this strategic plan as we share space at the Civic Centre with the Toronto District School Board. Did it come through? Okay.
Does anybody have any questions of the mover on the amendment? Seeing none, thank you. Further speakers on this item? Councillor Myers?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Again, just to sort of echo what my colleague said, this is a beautiful building. It's actually my second favorite building in Toronto, the first being the Toronto Reference Library, and they were both designed by Moriyama. I think this is really an iconic building, and when I first thought of how we could better use this space, I actually invited City Manager Paul Johnston here and just gave him a tour of how much underutilized space we actually have here and how this could really be a benefit to the community. I often go to the Center for Social Innovation at Bloor and Bathurst, and just seeing how that space is utilized by so many different community organizations, faith groups even. There's really an opportunity, I think, to do something like that here. And to really consolidate the staff onto one floor and have 2 or 3 floors available for different uses. So I've seen examples in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They've turned part of their city hall into an incubator. There's different examples of community groups looking for space to do Tai Chi exercises, or just not-for-profits, just looking for somewhere to set up. As we heard earlier, they do struggle with these commercial rents that are being charged. And I also want to acknowledge Councillor Ainsley, who I discovered through conversation, first had this idea 10 years ago, and I'm really looking forward to working with him to see this to fruition. We worked with the city manager on this amendment, and Paul was very excited when I brought him here, and we think this is a good thing for Scarborough. It And it would also help to generate some of the badly needed revenue to make some of the renovations in the building. As much as this building is iconic, you can see the wear and tear. Just looking here, you can see the carpet is in need of a redo. You know, there's a stair missing, parts of the steps are missing up front. The canopy for the stage is torn. So we could definitely use that revenue to really bring this building back to its former glory. And I look forward to working with you all to help achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Other speakers on this item? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, you are aware of the modernization initiative that's actually taking place along, I'm sure, with all of the secondary plans for the Scarborough Centre study, along with the work that is slated for the Scarborough Town Centre itself, working with staff on the external area of the Albert Campbell Square. We've had Mike Tanner from our music office and others at the square to discuss the opportunity to engage and to be more interactive, to be more user-friendly and purposeful for the community. So while I welcome the motion from Councillor Myers, this is simply to say that the work has been on the way for some time in terms of discussions about how best to utilize not only the internal area of the Civic Center, and as you've heard from others about the ownership, there are two owners of that particular building. Most people are not aware of it. One is the Board of Ed, and the other is the City of Toronto, formerly the City of Scarborough. There's a lot of work that's ongoing now with respect to looking at how to not only use the building itself, but the external piece. So I want to just make sure, put it on record, because it seems as if the suggestion is that somehow we have missed the opportunity there. As you have been made aware, Mr. Chair, and I know you've been made aware of this, of the modernization, we have to wait until all of that work is fully completed in order for us to look at how the utilization of the space is going to be. So I just want to make sure that we don't put the horse behind the cart, so in essence putting the cart in front of the horse. So we will get that work done, and this while this motion may bring some additional energy and light, it is to ensure that and inform members that much of these consideration and discussions have been going on. Plus, I also want to remind members of the issues around the development that has actually taken place in the Scarborough Civic Center and the surrounding areas. One of the things that we get complained on now is the amount of noise and so on. While I respect the points and concerns and the attention that people bring to that noise, I do think that we have to ensure that we can balance the interests of the energy of the square itself and allow it to be utilized by members of the public and the community at large, because that's the reason it was designed. And so a lot of that work is ongoing. I just wanted to ensure that members understand that it is not that the space has been simply sitting idle in the sense that there's no lens being looked at it. There's a whole issue of wayfinding and a whole series of things that are going. So it would be important for people to understand that work is actually, while it's slow and it's been largely delayed because of not only COVID, but other issues, that work is ongoing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. And just to, Councillor Myers, you have a point of order?
Yes, please. I just want to acknowledge what Councillor Thompson said, and just for everyone listening, the motion does actually say that this work is to be done in alignment with the city's workplace modernization program, and that Part D of the motion says consulting the past work to inform medium and long-term site and area plans, including the our Scarborough Center study. So I do want to acknowledge, as to Councillor Thompson said, that work is being done, and this motion is in no way seen to be competing with that work, but complementing it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Myers.
Mr. Chair, just a point of order, please.
Councillor Thompson, point of order.
Thank you. I thank Councillor Myers for his comment. I didn't see the motion that he put forward. It was just brought on as new business, and I had not gone to that, so that's very helpful. Thank you, Councillor Myers.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. And I will be supporting the motion. I've been on Scarborough Community Council for a number of years now. I think we all realize how important this building is to our community today and its past history. I've had a number of initiatives that I've successfully moved with support of Scarborough Community Council over the years, including behind us we have the mayors and the Reeves from the old city of Scarborough and the township of Scarborough that were tucked away in a room upstairs that nobody could see, that was moved down here. The Thompson Family Bible that was in the lobby, that's now in a much safer place being looked after. Reviewing the rooms, use of the rooms and their availability to the community. We have an office modernization project on now that we're doing in conjunction with the school board. I think there is ongoing basic maintenance that needs to be done in this building that we don't see as much. And, I'm hoping this will continue to prod staff along to making sure that this building is used to the original intent of the city of Scarborough when it was built. Okay, so we have the motion before us. All in favor? Sorry,
Mr. Chair, just
we have the
point of order
amendment
after the
before
vote,
us.
please.
Sorry, we have Councillor Cannival's amendment. All in favor? That carries. Sorry, Councillor Thompson, you wanted a recorded vote?
No. I was asking for a point of order. I want to make a comment after the vote is taken.
Oh, okay. All right. So then item is amended.
Thanks.
All in favor? That carries. And then Councillor Thompson, you have a point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if you can see the book that I'm holding up. It's Scarborough by Catherine Hernandez. I'd invite members to have a read of that book. I think it's very, very informative.
Thank you. It's an excellent book. I've already read it. It's in my office downtown. Thank you.
Excellent.
All right. Motion to adjourn. Councillor. Sorry. Bills. We have to pay the bill.
Can I do a point of order? Just wanted to add to Councillor Thompson's recommendation. There's also a book called Brother that also captures Scarborough really well, and both novels are made into award-winning films.
Councillor Cannival, would you like to move the bills?
I would love to. That bills 155 to 157 prepared for the February 16th, 2024 meeting 11 of the Scarborough Community Council be declared as bylaws and passed subject to section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006.
All in favor? That carries. We have a confirmatory bill. Councillor Thompson, would you like to read the confirmatory bill?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair, and thank you. That confirmatory bills to confirm the legislative proceeding of the Scarborough Community Council acting under delegated authority of meeting 11 on February 16, 2024, be declared as bylaws and passed subject to section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006. Thank you.
All in favor of the confirmatory bills? That carries unanimously. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Myers, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you, everybody, and thank you to all the staff. Meeting adjourned.